Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Firstly, thank you for taking time and joining us today, especially in the evening around 5. I understand everybody is in a hurry to rush to their houses, but we promise to give you a fantastic session and we have great speaker. I will quickly take a minute to introduce Rick. We have today with us Ric Garner. Rick is the Managing Director and Workforce Readiness Consulting for Entity Data Services. Rick leads the Future of Work consulting practice at Entity Data Services. He has extensive experience helping global organizations create their future state talent strategies and also execute complex workforce transformation, change management, and new skilling programs. Rick is currently leading a series of programs at Entity Data Services focused on expanding digital capabilities and new approaches to work that include virtual reality and the metaverse. We have 45 minutes of good masterclass by Rick. I will keep 15 minutes for us to have a quick Q&A in the last. You can post your questions in the chat window or in the Q&A tab. I'll keep a tab and we'll pick up questions and I'll ask Rick. Rick, I'll hand it over to you. I'll be off video, but I'll be here if you need anything.
That's great. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Good evening. It's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule, as she said, especially towards the end of the day. So we'll have a very informative and fun session for you guys today around the topic of the metaverse. And so just in terms of a few more points about me, I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina in the US. Been in consulting my entire career. And a few more tidbits. I enjoy traveling, especially to the beach personally, and playing golf, although I'm really bad. So just again, kind of a few things about me. And then again, my role is really focused on helping our clients think about and design the future of work for their organization. And that really plays out different ways across various industries in terms of what that looks like for healthcare versus financial services. But essentially, that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I do for my career, helping clients think about what's the talent that they need, where are they going to source and select that talent, and how do they need to think about the way that their workforce and workplace is organized. So as we get into the Q&A, happy to share more in terms of some example projects, what we're doing in TT Data with our clients. It is an exciting time to be part of a workforce and human capital and consulting oriented practice, just because of the kind of this change and evolution that's going on in terms of worker expectations and the way work is performed. So a lot to kind of unpack there. And again, looking forward to sharing some of those insights with you guys. I would say that with regard to the future of work, the VR metaverse continuum is a big component. And so we're starting to spend a lot of time leveraging those technologies and thinking about how can we deliver consulting services through those technologies, but also what does that look like in terms of our clients evolving their business models. And so the metaverse really represents a very significant business opportunity and also personal opportunity for you guys and others with your career to do some really exciting, relevant work. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about what some of that looks like. Would also just underscore, please use the chat. Last thing I want to do is talk at you guys and share a bunch of slides. So use the Q&A button, the chat button. We'll try and pause a few times and we can take a couple of questions and definitely leave some time at the end as well for what you guys would like to deep dive on. So just in terms of the agenda, today we're going to do an introduction to the metaverse, just kind of a straightforward definition, some of the components, how the metaverse is organized, and then jump into some use cases and examples. So how is the metaverse being used today in the real world? And we've got a few that includes going through how we are using the metaverse and associated technologies and NTT data. So have some examples for you guys. And then wanted to talk a little bit about what the opportunities are in the market, what skills, if this is an area of interest, what are the skills that you need? What are some new and emerging jobs and roles that relate to the metaverse and VR? Again, it's an exciting time very early on and a lot of opportunity that it is out there. So it's not meant to make you a full-blown expert with all things metaverse, but at least give you some introductory content, hopefully get you excited about the application and the potential and interested to learn more. Full disclosure, I'm also not a deep technologist. So with regard to a lot of the underlying technologies and coding, that's less around what I do. I'm more focused on the strategy and the design. So if for some reason I'm not able to answer a question, I will go find that out for you guys and follow up. All right. So with that, just a little bit of context. And so as you guys are obviously aware, we are continuing to go through a major evolution in terms of how work is performed at a macroeconomic and society level. And so we're continuing to see this scale automation and digital disruption where not just AI, robotics, RPA, big data, analytics, Internet of Things, all of these are really continuing to drive disruption and opportunity in businesses. I think there's a lot more positive connotation to this than some of what would be out there as well. And there's the message that I generally push around automation is that this is an opportunity to smart redistribution of our workforce and actually create new jobs and unlock new businesses and opportunities. And that should be the focus of businesses versus cost optimization or other factors. So we're kind of moving in this phase where the business cases for all these technologies are really becoming real, from pilot periods and early experimentation to actually making them real in these different industries. So that's driving change. And then I think this middle point is important. Over half of the Fortune 500 that was listed in the year 2000 doesn't exist today. They've either been bought out or they have died out as a company. And when we trace that back, there's really two reasons: a failure to innovate and a failure to transform or deliver organizational change. And so there's really an imperative around this whole idea of new technologies like where we're headed now with the metaverse and VR and XR, that they really need to think about adopting these technologies and figuring out how to apply them within and across their business to unlock new revenue streams, ways of working, and other factors. And this is just another example that the companies that lag or don't embrace these opportunities and do that in the right way are going to fall behind. And we're starting to see some companies, and again, I'll give you a few examples that are really all in, moving very quickly, and they are going to gain a competitive advantage. And then lastly, I think is important is that we're continuing to see the skills gap increase almost unanimously across the board in every industry. So this has been kind of front page for a lot of news organizations you guys have seen, but talent and skill gaps across the board with regard to a lot of these key skill areas, in particular in these new and emerging technologies. The metaverse, virtual reality development, XR development is really no different, and it's going to continue to increase the skills gap. And that's one of my messages for you guys here today is if you do have that interest, you don't have to by any means, but if you do, there is a good opportunity and there will be demand for some time in the market for skills that relate to this particular space. So that's a little bit of context around this just continued evolution and the importance of companies to be able to embrace new and different technologies, determine how to use them, and then drive change in their organization, and then really make sure that the right talent is in place to deliver all of the above. So that we're going to jump into just an introduction of the metaverse. And before I do that, again, didn't want to just talk to you guys the entire time. So we've got a few polling questions that we'll ask you guys along the way. And so we'll start with the first poll, if we could pull that up, and then you guys should see a question that pops up and have the ability to select what you believe the answer to be. So question is, in what year was the term metaverse first coined? And give you guys just a minute to share what you think. Right. This is one of the most evenly distributed polls or responses I may have ever seen. Looks pretty balanced. And it looks like 2010 is the slight winner. And so the answer, let's see if we can just share back with you guys. So there you can see the results. So the correct answer is actually the second, 1992, which sounds a little bit early on, but it was actually coined in a novel called Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. It was around a little bit of a kind of a futuristic novel, and coined a fictional virtual reality space, and that was the first time that the term metaverse was officially used. And then obviously it took quite a bit of time before we started hearing that at scale. So that's our first polling question, kind of an interesting fact along with that as well. And then let's jump back in here to metaverse. So we're really thinking about the full spectrum of what we call unlimited reality, which is a combination of virtual reality, extended reality, augmented reality, and these hybrid workplace models. The metaverse are really converging to create this whole new opportunity and future around how we work and how we interact and play. From a play standpoint, we see Facebook rebranding as Meta, represents a lot of aspects around gaming and gamification and leveraging the metaverse. But there are also a lot of opportunities, and what we'll kind of jump more into today is how we work and how we interact at work, because there are significant interactions in terms of training, engagement, onboarding, events and meetings, design thinking, and others that can actually, while we're still in this hybrid working mode, again, give another dimension and another element to where and how we work. So instead of kind of this hybrid model of working in person in the office or fully virtual, there's a third dynamic, which is virtual reality. And for those of you that have put on the goggles and been in an environment and experienced that, it is pretty powerful, and again gives a really good opportunity for the actual work interaction component. So what is the metaverse? This is just kind of a real simple definition. Again, most of you may be familiar with this, but just kind of wanted to start out with the definition so everyone has a consistent understanding of the metaverse as a virtual environment where users can connect and build and work through immersive experiences, really facilitated by a combination of technologies, not just VR that you can see here on the right. So it's really multiple different concepts and technologies coming together around the mixed reality spectrum, the use of digital artificial intelligence, this immersive digital space, avatars and digital twins, and then ultimately, I think a lot more to come around blockchain, NFTs, and so forth being incorporated. So again, this is just kind of a definition and how we would really define what the metaverse is. And then I think for me, it's often better, because it still is somewhat of an abstract term, is to go through a few examples in terms of what that looks like, which again, we'll get to here in just a few minutes. And this is, I think this is a really good graphic, and this is one of our partners, Gartner, has been doing a lot of research and kind of defining, what is the metaverse, what are the exact opportunities. And so again, it's really drawn on a number of different types of technologies to create that virtual reality and immersive world that's focused on a 3D experience. So this is really about, in the most simple way to think about it, is moving from a 2D world to a 3D world. Although you can have interactive experiences, and there are kind of metaverse gaming concepts that are 2D browser based. I think the ultimate idea where it's most effective is 3D. So that's the way that I kind of think about it. And then you can see it's really kind of what we've seen is the evolution and kind of how the current metaverse platforms were built, really resulted from gaming, and a lot of the kind of the historic gaming and interactive type type software that was out there really being evolved and sort of repurposed around the metaverse. But some elements of it are strikingly similar to technologies that have been around for some time. And interesting, several metaverse companies are over 10, 12 years old, and they have their roots in actual gaming. The other thing I call out, the kind of big opportunities you think about replicating environments and replicating businesses in the metaverse is NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and digital currencies backed by blockchain technology. And so that's really that's really important, because as we again create and replicate these environments, whether it's a shopping experience or going to the mall, or doing other types of businesses in the metaverse, the integration of payments and the use of blockchain and those coins is going to really be key to unlock the actual business operation side. And obviously security is going to be a big component of that. So again, these are just some of the elements of a metaverse, different technology areas, good concepts to look into. Again, if you have interest in the metaverse as a follow-on to this session, if you're doing some research, I think we'll make these slides available. These are some good areas to kind of understand farther, because they do relate to some specific opportunities from a career perspective as well. All right, let's keep going on. So why an embrace for the metaverse? I think a lot of it may be, obvious. And I would also just start this out to say, while there's an extremely positive business case for the metaverse and a lot of momentum across all industries, we have a responsibility to, at the same time, be careful. We need to think about equity and access. We have this is yet a kind of another thing where the cost and cost barriers, we don't want to exclude individuals or companies or populations from access into these services and the environment and those opportunities. So to think about that, we have to think about the information security and privacy aspects, and then just using it for good as well. So there's kind of as we've heard the terms ethical AI, that's all really applies to the metaverse. And we do need to be careful on that and making sure that we do maintain human interactions, and it's all part of a balance for now. And so in terms of the positive aspects, what I like most, I mentioned this is really a move from 2D to 3D, the immersive experience. And so with we kind of in work have been experiencing Zoom fatigue over the last couple of years, right, with Zoom meetings not being in person, and you're looking at your computer screen and people kind of like you're looking at me all day. Whereas if you're in a fully immersive metaverse environment, it feels like you're in the office, and you actually ironically have more of a human interaction with that 3D and spatial computing experience. So less looking at cell phones and multitasking, toggling between Zoom meetings and everything else you could be doing. You're fully immersed. Your cell phone is not there, email and other distractions, which is good. I think I stepped on my girlfriend's cat one time, so you do have to be careful, but very immersive. And I think from a business case standpoint, what we're ultimately going to see with the metaverse is a replication of business models and certain aspects of society in the actual metaverse. Right now, there are multiple worlds, multiple platforms all over the place. I think we'll obviously see convergence and integration from these different worlds over time, over the next few years. But the opportunities to replicate actually living, you can buy property in the metaverse, you can buy a space, you can go interact and play games, you can take training. So companies have an opportunity to create revenue streams, delivering products and services through the metaverse. And that's going to be, kind of, if you think about the move from brick and mortar to the internet, this is just about that big. And companies are going to have to, that if you think about, did not create a website, did not embrace the internet, probably aren't still around. Those that not only did, but then applied innovation around it, think about like Netflix versus Blockbuster, they're going to go even farther. And again, it's not a one size fits all across all industries, but a lot to be done there at exploring revenue-based use cases. And again, that's a lot of where the design is going to come in. Just to kind of pick up, the economic, opportunities with new jobs as, new technologies and all of this unfolds. Then, I think one of the things that's cool maybe as a use case in healthcare is the ability to accelerate collaboration, solve problems through training. So you can bring together some of the best minds in the world without having to fly them all over the place to work on a specific problem. So there's some use cases around surgeons actually coming together in VR, and then also using augmented reality to look at certain surgical procedures, problems that would be very difficult to do, obviously, especially in a COVID environment. But the time and expense for travel, all of that kind of can be reduced, and then still allow that, again, real immersive experience and working together. And for me, it's cool. When I first put on the headsets, I kind of felt like playing Nintendo the first time a long time ago. It's just very different, cool, and represents a different way to interact, and just limited opportunities. I think the other piece is you're not bound by the rules of gravity. I'll show you guys a few screenshots, but you're not bound by the traditional restrictions of the world, which is where a lot of creativity is going to come in, and just again, really cool curated experiences. We'll pick up a little bit. Just want to do a kind of a fast forward. So how might this all play out in a few years or whatever it may be? So let's say you've got Avery as a college student, and kind of a typical week in the life. So, well, Avery might go to a traditional brick and mortar college and attend some classes in person. She may have a track that's delivered through the metaverse of VR, where she is not only there interacting with the professors and her peers at her actual campus where she lives, but she can interact and collaborate with others in college and taking similar courses from all over the world and backgrounds. So, ability to meet and interact and develop a network globally is important personally and for business. So this can just facilitate that without the bounds of having to travel all over. I do hope that still happens. You still would meet in person, and that's a big part of life. But this just represents a potential opportunity for some courses to actually may attend that online college campus that multiple colleges may come into kind of one collective and attend, interact with some courses with others. Shopping, we've already seen Gucci, Nike, others that created their own metaverse oriented stores. So you can get personalized help, more realistic kind of looks at different products, things like that. Obviously, there's still some physical barriers, and I think this will progress over time. But you can shop, make purchases right in the metaverse, similar to how you would on your phone or through the internet. So she heads shopping at some point. And then what's also really cool, say Avery's a little bit stressed later in the day, hops over to a beach and takes a surfing lesson, or just spends some time listening to the waves and hanging out under the palm trees in the sun. So you can take yourself, sort of teleport anywhere around the world. Then lastly, say it's the evening, Avery can meet up with some friends, and we're seeing spaces like through Meta and Worlds and other creating these concerts and experiences. So you actually attend a front row concert of your favorite rock star with your friends, be right there, very immersive, not huddled in the back of the stadium. So kind of cool opportunities for social events, bands. One of the demos that I did, I was sitting on the front row of a Lakers game. So pretty cool stuff in terms of sporting and events. I'm sure cricket will have the ability to actually feel like you're on the field there with the players, at some point, and that's going to continue to progress. So just some examples of real life, how we're going to see this move from 2D to 3D, historically our computers, recently our smartphones, and then now the metaverse coming in to play. So with that, We'll pause again. I'm going to do the second poll just before we jump into the real world or virtual world examples and use cases. So pull up the second poll. And so the question is around the start of 2022, what's the price of the most expensive metaverse land purchase ever made? And this is in US dollars. Okay. See a pretty good balance here as well. Okay, share the results. So the majority picked 4.3 million, and that is the right answer. That is the most expensive land purchase, a piece of real estate that will be used for commercial purposes. I think that was made right in December 2021. It set a record from the previous week of, I think, around 2 million. So I think what this says to me is that this is real. There's real dollars, there's real opportunity, and investors are already starting to think about buying spaces, aka land, and think about creating malls and creating these businesses, and they're paying real money to do it, and it represents an opportunity for returns. I also saw that there's already real estate companies. So think about kind of replicating business models. There are real estate brokers that the companies that are in the metaverse that will broker land and businesses. So that's already happening, and again is going to just scale significantly over the next few years. So I thought that's kind of an interesting tidbit as well. Okay. Let's see. So going to just a few use case examples. And so you'll get the industrial metaverse at work. And I think we touched on some of this. It's really creating the immersive, I saw a question to kind of redefine the metaverse. So I'll hit that right here. And again, throw any questions in the Q&A, and I'll try and you kind of pause or take a look at what's in there. So this is bringing the metaverse, which is the virtual immersive spaces powered by multiple different technologies, like the integration of VR and AR, and digital worlds and spatial computing, avatars and so forth. And then what's cool is the curation abilities. So the ability to design cities, design buildings, design experiences like training, like onboarding, like meetings and events, and design thinking sessions, again, is a few examples. So it's bringing all this together and then really empowering businesses and companies to create these curated experiences. And again, those experiences map to fun and entertainment, and they're going to map to business doing work and how we actually work at work, and then replicating business models. And so this is a few kind of additional concepts around what's going on. And then I'll just give you a few examples. This is a good one that, banking, we mentioned NFTs and blockchain and payments is going to be a huge part of how the metaverse and businesses operate. And so the payments piece represents a very big opportunity for individuals and for companies. So this is just kind of a cool example around creating kind of tailored NFTs and coins that will support sort of this virtual bank environment where you can interact and get demos, various banking and payments products, personally, cards, services, mortgages, things like that. And then creating this sort of immersive world around the banking center, getting advice or guidance around retirement and other factors. So this whole, kind of bank of the future is less about having a branch or a space where you're physically going to an ATM or to a location, and you would actually be able to replicate your financial services needs in the metaverse And then again, a lot of this is going to kind of scale into the use of cryptocurrency and tokens for payments and transfers. So again, kind of cool example of some banking services in the real virtual world, allowing for better interaction, bank managers, avatars, and 3D explanations that all kind of it is incorporating. And I think what's forward thinking about this as well is incorporating sort of the AI based interaction into the experiences, so you can better curate experiences at scale for more of your customers through the metaverse versus physical interactions with the actual branch, and then back that into better data as well. So again, great example, how we might all be banking sometime very soon, and something to think about as you guys are starting the career as financial services, and the applications here is going to be pretty significant. Metaverse, mentioned one earlier. I think there's a lot of opportunities. So think about the next evolution of teledoc, and being able to kind of meet your doctor, or even it's not your doctor in your physical location. You may be able to meet a renowned surgeon, or someone that's not necessarily bound to your location without having to travel for specialist reasons. And so this just enables, again, if we do this right, we got to keep reduce the divide and make sure that we create equitable opportunities, but can open up access to more specialists, easier with lower cost. And so this is kind of a cool example of this desk flex metaverse and virtual telemedicine, where you can meet virtually, converse in real time. And then there's an opportunity for augmented reality, which is more kind of bringing the physical space and specific applications to look at a patient's data, and actually work kind of a better level of diagnosis and interaction than what you would get with the 2D teledoc. So again, it's a nice example of moving from 2D to 3D and the additional experience that goes with it, but also an enhanced ability for the physicians and the patients to work together on what the actual issue is. And again, the other thing I call out is you see a lot of wires there. It's not perfect. This is like the internet in the 90s. It's early. It's a lot farther along than a lot of people think, but there's still a long way to go to progress. And so you can kind of think about how this may play out with this level of interaction. But we're also starting to see training surgeons, so better preparing and training surgeons and specialists using metaverse and guided training technology and AR. So that delivers a better, more consistent training experience. And that's a lot of what I'm focused on is the training applications and the human performance applications leveraging the metaverse. And that's a substantial opportunity. The other one, which I think is super cool, is that Nike created their own metaverse. They've been forward thinking for a long time, obviously. And so they've created Nike Land, and it's a virtual space now. I think a lot of what they're intending to do is you can go shopping, you build your own avatar within the space, you can interact with others, and you can actually customize with Nike gear, and then kind of have a shopping experience, and then you can also play games. So they made it fun with basketball and dodgeball and other types of kind of fun experiences, all branded by Nike. Another kind of cool opportunities, you think about the amount of athletes globally that a company like Nike has within their network. So this is I think opportunities to create and interact experiences with celebrities. I think so Nike's really thinking of it at that point where they've got their Nike Land that's out there, but there's more applications and kind of cool things that they can continue to do over time. All right, so we're going to share just a few things that we're doing at NTT Data, and I think we've got a third polling question. We'll go ahead and pull up. I think it's our third and final polling question. We're ready. All right. In the movie Ready Player One, which was a Spielberg film, what was the name of the gamified world where people came to interact and play? This was a movie probably 7 or 8 years ago, predicting a future, I think, that occurs around 2050. So fast forward. Okay. Looks like if we're able to share the results, it looks like Metaland was the winner with about half of the results, but the answer is the Oasis, the first one there. That was the kind of the fictional name that they coined for their gamified metaverse, where the players had their avatars and could go into this fictional world and compete in a series of games for tokens and coins and rewards that they could take back and use in real life. So this was one of a good movie with a lot of interesting predictions about how this may all play out. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It's a good movie. Okay, so just go into some examples around what we're doing in NTT Data. I mentioned, right now, I think where most companies are is really at this sort of experimentation, pilot, and proof of concept phase. So what we're seeing is most clients and businesses are starting with that in mind, and it's sort of a crawl, walk, run, and we are at the crawl stage. And so it's really about starting to create your virtual office environment, allowing pilot groups to create their avatars and start interacting within those spaces, and then starting to experiment and perform services. So some of the use cases I mentioned, I'm most focused on learning and development programs, and so leveraging that space, and then using the integrations with things like PowerPoint and Miro for design activities, where you can actually create and facilitate that interaction. It's to the point where you can do very interactive training, design oriented, where you can use flip charts and markers and virtual stickies. So we're pretty focused with what I do on the human performance aspects. So learning, development, leadership meetings, design thinking is another really good one. I mentioned a lot of integrations already are out there with really good design thinking tools. Engagement, fun, and events is another big one. So again, you're not bound by the physical space of your office, so you can teleport a team to a nice beach and have a virtual happy hour. And then there's kind of games and events and things that you can play that are going to progress, in terms of virtual cornhole, virtual golf. I've joked about a use case of having one-on-one meetings while you're fishing. So there's kind of a lot of ways that you can apply sort of fun aspects of work over these different use cases. So we're really thinking about all of the above, and these are just some screenshots. We are actually experimenting with multiple different metaverse technologies. So just to get kind of a few and some plugs out there, there's a combination of different metaverse providers and technologies that we're using, starting to look at. And one or multiple might play out more than the other over time, but we're still early on, again, more in that experimentation phase ourselves. So there's companies, you guys can kind of research or look into, like Arthur Digital, which has a really good immersive 3D, very advanced avatar, and is set up for office space. Verbella is the one you see here. It's a little more of the kind of cartoon feel. So that's me and one of the guys I work with. Terrell and our kind of avatars interacting in the NTT Data space. There's other companies, Sinewave and Breakroom, that all of them really focused on the business use cases versus a meta, and some others that are again focused more on how we play and how we interact. So this is where you can see an example of customizing your office. We got our logo. We're big into Formula One and racing. You see the race car on the left there. And this is a good example. So IT service is a big business for NTT Data. So it's hard to see in these screenshots. But if we were in the environment the help desk of the future, and being able to show up and talk to an IT person, have them run diagnostics real time through the internet with your computer, get better service and interaction. So this is sort of a fictional help desk that we created for IT service, and we're kind of playing with what that might look like. So maybe the opportunity to provide IT services, advisory, strategy, support, in the metaverse going forward as well. And so just a little bit about, a couple of screenshots of what that looks like. This is a training use case. And so I think if you guys haven't, there's going to be opportunities to take training and take part in these kind of immersive experiences. So this is sort of an evolution again of we've taken training through our computers, through our phones. We moved from classroom ILT training to CBT training at some point years ago, then kind of back to a blended model. And this is just, again, just think about it as another evolution, another technology, another medium or channel to distribute and deliver content and messaging. So these are some screenshots of what that training experience may look like, where you can still integrate videos and PowerPoint, have kind of a main stage, speakers that you're able to talk to and again farther interact with. You can have sort of the round table concept for debrief and discussion, breakout rooms, and it's again kind of the more interactive than just a Zoom presentation. It's more like you're there in the room, more immersive, and then really good ability to interact with the technologies that are already out there. I'm using the Oculus 2 right now, and the combination of the volume and how and kind of where you are specifically is pretty incredible, farther than what I thought it would have been for where we are now. And I think there's a Oculus 3 that may be coming out later in the year. So the technology is going to continue to progress. And part of an example of what do we do as a consulting provider. So what we may do is, while we don't own this metaverse technology that you see here, is we would leverage that, partner with one of the vendors, whoever they may be. We're working on our own as well internally. And we would actually curate the experience. So a lot of that is from a design perspective, creating the actual training program, not a lot different than what we would do if it was 2D, but learning objectives, and then do the design and the content. But then there's this extra level of curation around how we would do breakouts, how we would facilitate different groups. And there's some setup and configuration that obviously goes with that. So there's that extra level of kind of service and work that needs to happen just around delivering that experience. So we've got a couple cool pilots that are going on internally and with clients that have had some really good early success in the training and development space. And so this will be a kind of a whole big evolution of learning and how we learn in the future, which is already starting. And then the last one I'll give you guys here, just as an example. Excuse me. I mentioned one of the cool things is in the design and configuration of the actual virtual office and virtual spaces. You're not bound by gravity. So why not have a mountain or a waterfall right in the background? It might be a little bit distracting, but it's kind of cool. So you can imagine yourself, if you've got the goggles on and this is 3D, sitting in an amphitheater where that would have been a big gray wall behind you, kind of boring and maybe dark. You can actually configure and customize various backgrounds, tropical backgrounds, mountains like you see here, and just kind of make it more of a fun environment. So there's some really cool spaces where maybe you don't have a roof. Obviously you control the weather. There's no rain. So you have no roof over the office, and it's a nice sunny day, and you again can have mountains or different landscapes. This is also kind of where, I kind of neglected to call out the abstract space versus more of a digital twin. And I think that's as well important. So what you see here is more of an abstract concept, obviously with the mountain that's sort of just curated or created to provide a space. Digital twinning is more, is you really think about that simply as more of an exact replica. So digital twinning can actually come in and clone an exact office, exact manufacturing floor, exact bank branch, or exact hospital to the exact space configurations or standards. So digital twinning would be more an exact replication. So if you need that realistic, almost exact environment, digital twinning is also a very important concept that relates to both 2D and 3D, because that's where you can get into more specific applications like training for manufacturing. You need these specifics, in front of you and the exact environment if you're training before you're actually on the manufacturing floor. So did want to, kind of call that out from a space perspective, that you could go abstract, sky's the limit, or you can go more of an exact digital twin with regard to the design of offices with the VR concept. All right. Making our way through. I'm going to speed through this, and then we've just got about 15 minutes left, and I see some questions. We will get to the Q&A. So just going to go through one more quick topic with you guys before we jump into questions. So what's your opportunity in the metaverse market? Again, this wasn't deep dive training, just a little bit of an introduction. Get your feet wet in terms of what's going on out there and the exciting opportunities that are there. So in terms of, kind of what's happening. So I mentioned we're still at this more experimental early use case phase. So a lot of opportunities will play out for businesses and individuals over time. And this is important because I think we still continue to see that skill gap. And this is going to be another area where there's a number of different jobs and types of skills that are needed to really make this all come together and deliver the virtual reality behind it. So I think I mentioned organizations, they're starting to create metaverse teams and COEs and experimenting with basic meetings and use cases. Just, what does a 3D business model look like? And thinking about how does, payments work, things like that. Starting to hire niche talent, say that's from a technology perspective and also from, kind of broader business design, and thinking as well. So early on, a lot of companies are, that recognize, like the Nikes, that there's an opportunity. They're jumping in with kind of this early development. And what can you do on the back end? There's training out there. I'll give you guys some skills and jobs coming up in a second. But be a curious learner about the metaverse. Whether you like it or you hate it, it's going to be a part of our world and where we're headed. So learning as much as you can about it is great. There's some training opportunities, like what we're doing here, that you can actually, you can take this and build and do more, more advanced oriented training and get into, kind of different technologies. Spend some time out there in VR to the extent you can, play games. There's some demos and things that you can do. A lot of companies are making the headsets a low cost barrier. So there's some opportunities to get free or significantly reduced headsets. Most of them are less expensive than a computer right now. And hopefully we'll get cheaper. And then there's more programs. We need to make sure that everyone who wants, the access has it. That's going to be very important. And then, just start thinking about building a network there and, again, taking training and backing into the technical and design skill sets that back into your interest. If you like training and the human performance, there's a lot of opportunity there. If you like development, there's opportunities there. If you like kind of the service components, there's opportunities there as well. But that's the point, is that it represents a very significant business and personal opportunity as well. Did want to also share, okay, so what are some of the roles that are trending and some of the skills that we're seeing as it relates to the metaverse economy? So there's a number. We're actually starting to see chief metaverse officer pop up. So you own the metaverse for a particular company in terms of the design, what's the business model, have all the different design and technical teams just kind of report up. So that's sort of the might be a metaverse COE lead now that expands over time, but that's really trending. And then I mentioned different, kind of breaking down the different technologies in terms of COE leadership, extended reality developer, big. Security is going to be another one to kind of see that play out in the skills. So metaverse security engineer, and then payments in terms of the blockchain applications design, the actual technology that underpins NFTs is going to be big. So those are some roles. Just a few examples that are out there. There's a lot more you can kind of look into around what we're seeing as new and emerging roles in the market. I'd say it's, again, generally pretty universal across industries, although exactly what you may be doing is a little bit different. And then some of the skills that you see here, graphic animation, obviously, I think the blockchain backing into payments, APIs has been huge across the board. the data visualization, kind of big data components. It's not on the slide, but that's also big, as well as kind of how we capture and design, what is done with that data, hopefully ethically. And then the UX UI design and getting into what's called spatial computing, sort of the 6 degrees, is kind of that next evolution on top of traditional coding for, say, more of a web browser based application. So that's where kind of the XR piece comes in. So those are just a few examples of some roles and jobs and skills that back into this new metaverse economy. And again, I would say there's a gap here in addition to other areas of technology, in terms of the skills that are really needed, because it's a complicated world and there's a lot of things that people need to be able to do to kind of deliver all of the above. So again, if you have interest in this space, there is an opportunity, and what I would encourage is being a curious learner, and kind of backing into and thinking about what do you like to do, and how might that play out in a metaverse world, starting to build that network of people that you might know, and then starting to look into some training backing into these skills. I think we're still a little bit away from more formal curriculum and expanded curriculum and college courses and others. I think that will kind of happen as it relates to sort of new economy models, but that really lags. So what I've seen in kind of my last one is taking the learning, taking your career as you jump out into the world. You really want to take ownership of your career, define what you're passionate about, what you want to do, and then go find the right training and find the right network behind it. And if you put that effort behind it, you will be more successful than not. So with that, I know I've talked with you guys for about 45, almost 50 minutes, a little bit over, but we've got some time for Q&A. So I'll just pause here and then we can jump into the Q&A, and I'll answer as many questions as I possibly can.
Thank you, Rick. Do you want me to look at some questions, or are you able to see the Q&A tab?
Yeah, I can see the Q&A tab. So if that's okay with you guys, I'll just go down the list of questions and do the best I can. So the first question, see, I'm just going to go in order what's out there. Does it have only applications, or can it be enhanced? So no, it can be completely enhanced. So these are just some examples of use cases and how the metaverse is being applied. We're early use cases. They can be enhanced within those use cases. I think we're going to see the technology and the design continue to progress and improve. So full, kind of limitless opportunity for enhancement. Name the place where the metaverse space is on sale. So this is interesting. It's not really one metaverse right now. So you think about it as it is, sort of like your companies have a website. There's base technologies built on VR and XR and spatial computing and digital twins that are driving the actual environment. But you can almost think that is multiple companies have built those environments. And so, again, to give you that, right now it's crowded. There's not one metaverse you tap into. I think, again, over time, we're going to see alignment and consolidation. But a couple, examples, you have to actually go with a different vendor or different company, and then you're in, air quote, their metaverse world. Again, some are integrating, but Meta, Facebook is the clear leader around kind of the aspects of play. Microsoft and the platform called Mesh, which integrates with Teams, is another example. I know a lot of you are likely using Microsoft. So they are rolling out their own metaverse integration to Microsoft Teams. I think this year, we spoke with them a few months back. There's companies like Arthur Digital, Breakroom, Signwave, Verbella, Cyber Twins that all kind of own their own metaverse technology. And then the other type of company is the more development-oriented company. So actually VR and XR development, having those kind of tools and services that work with those companies. How is blockchain technology related to metaverse? What are your views on it? So I think this is there is not, where we are today is very limited, and what I've seen, very limited integration to blockchain. So I was kind of out to the right on the model. But what I think blockchain is ultimately going to underpin a couple of things. One is likely the digital currencies. So as moving from more of kind of the credit card traditional payments, there's a big opportunity for blockchain in the currency, very similar to how it's been supporting Bitcoin and Ethereum and cryptocurrencies. So I think blockchain will likely be a primary payment kind of facilitator. Will process payments and track them on the blockchain back on the ledger. I think there's also applications for mapping and managing processes. So I think what we'll see, for example, is transactions and records managed on the blockchain as well. We're looking at learning records management, pulling those onto the blockchain, so you have increased kind of transparency and traceability. So I think reporting, processing, and process management will be very well integrated on the blockchain, kind of track there, and then there's that's how that'll likely play out. Let's see. So since it's I'm just going to keep going for a few more minutes. If you guys want to cut me out, I know we're getting close. I'll go as far as I can. This is virtual. There won't be infinite space available in terms of virtual real estate. Why do they pay so much for virtual real estate when they can just make more virtual space? That is a great question. So part of the answer is you're right. While in theory, what will happen is it will be multiple metaverse environments that can expand or extend. What we're starting to see is similar to the physical world. There are clusters, and there are specific reasons why certain types of land or locations would be more valuable. So a couple quick examples. Some companies are creating like a city, and in that city you have access to certain stores, and you might be next to a mall or certain events and activities. So if you buy that space in the metaverse, even though you can kind of teleport, being in close proximity or next to or buying real estate that is within the mall to deliver your business is important, because that is how the gatekeepers have designed it. So you kind of have to pay for that space to be able to deliver your services. So it's about clustering. Another kind of fun example is some of the land. The celebrities are starting to own houses, sort of gimmicky. Snoop Dogg was one example, and the land around Snoop Dogg's house sold for several $1 million collectively. So you might have the ability to live next to or interact with a celebrity while they're hanging out at their metaverse house or having an event there, because that's an opportunity for celebrities and athletes, right? Get paid to host events in the metaverse. So being next to or kind of in the same world has a value behind it, and that's why people are paying so much, is for the business opportunities, proximity, as it relates to clustering. And then I think the free market will play out a little bit, right? Like, because so your point's exactly valid, that there's more that will be created. Meta impact talent hiring space, recruiter avatars going with Canon near future. Yeah, we're already starting to see that. I think recruiting, conducting interviews, onboarding, and integration with the metaverse. If it's back to is it a virtual interview over Zoom, or is there the opportunity to show up to a virtual office and actually do more of an interactive interview? So I think we're absolutely starting to see that. It's going to become very real over the next couple of years, and it does represent a good opportunity in recruiting talent, kind of hiring processes as well. Also an opportunity for candidates to meet more people, kind of show up to an office day, and there's the ability to interact with more employees, kind of get more about the culture, things like that. NTT's metaverse mobile website, I think we can make that available. We actually have a couple of different platforms we're working with, so we don't even have one of our own yet, as we're experimenting and partnering with multiple. So it's not like there's a link that I can send you guys, but we can make kind of more of those examples available on the back end. Do like one or two more real quick. What are the challenges for metaverse adoption? Companies are coping with it. Yeah, I think challenges, it represents the use of an entirely new technology, entirely new way of working. There's always going to be kind of fear and resistance behind that. There's training that needs to be taken. So I think some of the challenges are just around, people wanting to make sure that this is, the metaverse is done right. There's ethical, it's secure, it's safe, it's equitable. So I think those are all challenges, and then how is this going to play out? Is it going to be for good or other? And so I think those are some concerns that are real for the metaverse, and they need to be addressed. We actually do OCM services, organizational change, to help clients with that adoption, similar to how we would if they rolled out SAP or Oracle, but more of a kind of those tailored concerns. And I think there are absolutely ways around, the business case personally and for businesses is really good. And so ultimately that adoption really should come through. And how many years do you think it will take for the hardware, to kind of mature? So I'd say probably faster. Like I said, most even Oculus 2s right now are less expensive than many computers. It's like one more thing you have to buy. We're talking to some companies, who are thinking about, the goggles and the hardware. It's like they might have given you a computer, now or years ago. You get the headset with it. So I think we will hopefully see some companies that will procure the hardware for their employees. So through a work experience, you may be able to get access to it. That's the hope. I think we'll see, hopefully, discount programs and things like that. I again think the equitable access is going to be critical to this. And so we're going to see a number of programs like that. So I think it's already better than what you might, think, but I think the price point will likely come down. What I've heard is there's a lot coming on the market later this year, kind of right around the end of year holiday time. And so I think we'll start to see some price drops, and that get better as soon as next year. But likely it'll take a couple years. And, again, I think part of what we need to do is work with companies and organizations for that access, and you'll see a whole, kind of thing behind that as well. I know we're at time. I'm happy to go through a couple more questions, or I know if we need to pause. I know folks are end of day and likely may have to head out. So I can do either, or commit to following up with questions as we make the answers to the remaining questions.
I see the questions are still coming in, but
Okay.
since we are already at 6 o'clock, maybe we can wrap it up for now. And I'll request everybody to connect with me, or they can send you an email, or they can send you a message on LinkedIn, and you can respond to their questions. Or I can accumulate all of them and share it with you again, and you can respond back to them.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you guys for all the questions and the engagement. I'm looking, there's quite a bit out there. So thank you guys again for the interest in the questions. I will we'll go through and type those answers and then coordinate, hopefully sharing those back out the best we can. But thank you again for the time and sticking it out a little bit later in the day. Hopefully this was informative, and I enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you all today.
And thank you for taking time, Ric. And I'll again say this is too early for you, but we appreciate you're able to join us today. And I look forward to collaborating with you again sometime soon. And thank you everybody for joining. We will be sharing a feedback link. I'll request everybody to drop in your feedback. That will help us also to formulate the next sessions and bring in more effective speakers to you. And I'll wish you everybody a happy Independence, happy Rakhi, and all happy holidays. Have a good time. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you again, Ric. Any parting comments?
No, just thank you all again for the time today and the interest in the metaverse and NTT data. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.